So welcome everybody to Conscious Conversations. I'm Richard Sykes. Today we're going to dive into the topic of how to heal subconscious traumas from childhood. And in my eyes, I'm joined by somebody who is the perfect person to speak to on this topic because he's an EFT master. He's the creator of a very powerful healing technique called Matrix Reimprinting. He's the author of 2 books, Matrix Reimprinting being one of them, and the other one is Transform Your Beliefs, Transform Your Life. Now, I was lucky enough to be trained by Karl, EFT and Matrix Reimprinting, and it's without a shadow of a doubt transformed my ability to help others, and I haven't stopped since, really diving in deep to people's traumas and subconscious belief systems, all of this, and I wouldn't have been able to do it without this powerful technique. So hi Karl, how are you?
Thanks, Richard. How long ago was that now? It's a few years, wasn't it?
Yeah, it's I'd say 3 years.
3 years, yeah. And you spent time over on in Thailand and down in Copenhagen, Samui.
Yeah. Well, when we first got connected, I think it was through the email I sent you when I was explaining that I'd spent some time in Koh Phangan, magical island, and I think you'd obviously been there too. And you still go to Samui, right? You still spend some time in Koh Samui. Yeah,
I was there just a few weeks ago. I got married on Samui at the end of May.
Congratulations.
Thanks. Did I not tell you that? Oh, yeah. It's a long story, but yeah. On the beach in Koh Samui 3 weeks ago. Well, it's longer than that now, isn't it? It's 5 or 6 weeks ago. But yeah, magical place. Yeah,
it's an amazing place. Absolutely fantastic. And in fact, I met my partner in Koh Phangan, and we're about to have a baby. So lots happening.
Yeah, congratulations to you.
Yeah, thank you. So, Karl, before we dive into this topic, for those who are watching this video, and obviously other than the introduction and the little I've spoken about you, maybe tell us a little bit about EFT and how you was able to discover Matrix Reimprinting.
Okay, so my history with EFT goes back to 2003. I was going through a really bad time in my life, as many people do. I refer to it now as my dark night of the soul period. Whenever I mention this on a course and said, who's been through this kind of period when the whole life falls apart and like virtually everybody in the class puts the hand up? I think we've all experienced it. Yeah. I think it is the time of, at the time, it doesn't feel too great at the time, but it is a time of great growth and opportunity. Your life will invariably change. It's kind of the night is the darkest before the dawn kind of time. Yeah, rock bottom, and the only way is up from there. So yeah, that's where I was at. I had a lot of health problems, pain especially, shoulders, neck constantly tensed, and it created a lot of pain there. Knees, lower back had a prolapsed disc. So I was in constant pain because of that. I couldn't work. I ended up looking after at the time, 2 young children. Wasn't doing a great job of that. I was always a bit angry and didn't have patience because of the pain. And yeah, the marriage fell apart. So at that stage when I left the family home, I kind of lost everything: my kids, my family, wife, house. Everything had gone, and I looked at the medical model. All the issues I had, not just pain. I had a lot of stomach problems, and wherever I went, they do tests and say, "Oh, it's not this, not that," but we can't really help you. So invariably, and that was my first experience with the Koh Samui. A series of coincidences, synchronicities, led me to go to a detox retreat on Koh Samui. And it was there I first came across the EFT. Now, like yourself, where are you from originally?
I'm from West Yorkshire, England, Huddersfield.
Huddersfield. Well, as you know, I'm not far from you, the other side of the Pennines, probably.
Yeah.
And, you know, we brought up men and men, big boys don't cry and all this kind of stuff. And when I heard emotional freedom techniques, the full title, I was like, okay, I've got a few problems, but they're all physical in nature. None of it's emotional problems. I mean, you know, I'm a bloke, you know, from the north of England. We don't do emotional shit. So, sorry, did I swear there? You can edit that out later.
No worries.
It could get worse. So yeah, it was actually the resident hypnotherapist that also did EFT. He's saying that my prolapse disc is an emotional problem. And I'm saying, no, really, you know, I get where you're coming from, but no, it's a physical problem. You know, I've got an X-ray. I actually went to the hospital in Costa Rica. Had an X-ray done, and just off an X-ray, they said, "Oh yeah, that's why there's all the pain there. You know, we can see it quite clearly. The discs, you know, it's not the way it should be." So I had this argument with him, but ultimately, you know, I got to chat to him day after day as I was doing this fasting detox retreat, and he made more and more sense. He had a newsletter. I signed up for the newsletter, which took me to Gary Craig's original manual. He used to, you know, I think it's in the millions that people have downloaded that manual. Yeah. I downloaded it. Began to get interested. I saw it was about energy. It was about particularly, you know, the psychology side of it and the kind of chi, the Chinese medicine life force. I thought, well, it's actually quite interesting, and read through it. Just started tapping and I thought, oh, you know, feels a bit weird. Did a client with, sorry, my first client as such was my mother-in-law with a fear of heights. And long story short, after 5 minutes of some very, very basic tapping of just, you know, this fear of heights, fear of heights, fear of heights, she looked at me as if I'd gone completely mad. Maybe I was thinking, like, you know, the divorce and the separation was just the final straw, too much for poor Karl. He's now getting me to hum happy birthday and tap on myself. And he thinks this is going to make my phobia go away. The poor lamb. Yeah. So I kind of left it. I didn't know even how to test EFT at the time. I thought nothing of it. I thought, okay, that was a bit embarrassing, but we'll leave it there. 3 weeks later, same place, she'd had a panic attack with the heights. She actually, my sister-in-law, Maggie, calls me and said, "Do you want to believe this? Number's gone to the same place exactly, 3 stories up in this shopping centre. Look over the edge, the fear's completely gone." And it was, as you know, about the 1 minute wonder in EFT. Sometimes, yeah, just things can happen almost miraculously if there's not much, you know. We're going to talk about beliefs, aren't we? We're going to get into how deep-seated so many of our problems can be. Yeah. What can appear to be a simple problem can actually have some very deep roots. But some problems, they don't have the deeper roots, and you can just, you know, get incredible results very quickly. That was the case. And since that point, you know, she's done a lot of things. She went on London Eye and things like that, things she's always wanted to do, but couldn't because of the fear. And she said, no, it just never came back. So I was hooked. And then I just kept watching Gary Craig's videos, you know, hour after hour of Gary Craig, sought out practitioners locally to me. Eventually, you know, built up the confidence to start seeing clients myself. First of all, that usual family and friends circle, you know, starts to avoid you because you're trying to fix everybody. It's like, you know, I know what's wrong with you. I can fix you. No, you're not going to. You're not going near me with them tapping fingers. But yeah, as time went on, you know, I became a practitioner. Luckily, I did very well. Some great results. And then after a few years, another synchronicity, I had a day with three new clients, all teachers in one day, and I asked myself, you know, that's strange. Three teachers in one day, what does that mean? And a little voice in my head said, you have to teach this now. I was like, no way, that's not happening. But I did. I started teaching. Really just enjoyed it. I was surprised I was actually quite good at the teaching side of things. Looking back then, I'd probably been a bit rusty, but I felt comfortable enough doing it. 2007, you mentioned about the master status. Gary Craig had this program of EFT masters. It was a 2-year program. The highly experienced practitioners from around the world could apply. After 2 years, only 29 people actually got accepted and got through that. So that kind of changed everything for me. You know, at the time, back in 2007, 2008, he highly publicized the masters, you know, as his kind of ambassadors of EFT that would go out into the world and spread the world. And we'd be the main trainers, and we did big conferences. So so I found myself like in America, you're doing conferences to 300 people, and everything changed. And then ultimately Matrix, I was doing a course in Australia, and by accident the first Matrix session happened, and then since then it's just been a progression of more learnings, more understanding about trauma in itself. EFT and Matrix has taught me how trauma works. Probably one of my best skill is to watch and understand what's happening with people, and then you can just see through not reciprocation, over and over again the same things, and the same things that work to keep helping the same things, and you have more and more learning experience. It just grows and grows. So as you said, we've got the 2 Hay House books out now, which was obviously a privilege, having Hay House books. And one a lot of magical things have happened, like you're working with Louise Hay, and then just late last year we had our second Matrix conference, and we had Dr. Bruce Lipton. Anybody that trains with me will know he's my ultimate hero.
Yeah, the dude.
Just the information of Dr. Bruce Lipton. I mean, it's changed everything. My understanding of Matrix as well. It's brought the science and that's the science, spirituality together, and it's made such a huge difference in my understanding of how and why Matrix works. And I've got this video clip of Bruce Lipton at our conference. Spending time with him was amazing. But him saying, you have to change the pictures. To change the belief, you have to change the pictures. What do you think Matrix Reimprinting is about? I think there was tears running down my eyes as he was saying that. And so having Bruce Lipton, with us for a full day was, certainly one of the peaks. And as I mentioned, I just got married. Now, I'm from the beginning of what we talked about. We're looking at 14 years now. I've just turned 50 this year. I play squash on a regular basis. Back 14 years ago, and for 10 years, I couldn't do any sport. Even my little boy Daniel, when he was 8 years old, he said, "Can I play football, Daddy?" I was like, "Sorry, son. It's not hard to play football in the garden." I just could not play. Now, 14 years on, I'm playing squash. When I'm at home and I'm not traveling and training 2 or 3 times a week. And we play hard. We're running around like headless chickens on that squash court. And the marriage, I actually just remarried my ex-wife, who I separated from and divorced back in 2003. As I've changed, and she's naturally changed, and we just came back together. After a year, I'm speaking to now from Mallorca. We have a holiday home here. Somewhere from my boyhood dreams. I used to come here on holiday, and I thought, one day I want to live here. So not only is the health improved, relationships improved, just life is just great. Still always things to do. Always more to do, but life is incredibly better. So where do you want to go?
Well, I'm happy to hear it, Karl. And I was just going to say and touch on how there's so many people going through dark times, with the health and not knowing really what to do. And I think for me, and some similarities with what you were saying, is that when you're kind of pushed into a corner with your health and you've exhausted every avenue, and you go into the doctors and they're saying they don't know what to really do, and they're prescribing you pharmaceutical drugs. Like I had chronic fatigue syndrome, adrenal fatigue, and God knows what else. And I was just absolutely exhausted, and my health was just slowly just flowing down the toilet, like consistently. We're just getting worse and worse and worse. And to go to the doctors, these people who, we see as the people that help us, and I'm sure, they're good at what they do in certain aspects, but I think that they are limited, and more people are starting to realize that. And that's what I realized when the doctor said, "This is what you've got. You'll have it for the rest of your life. Take these antidepressants, and it might help with some of the symptoms." And I asked, well, what's causing the symptoms? I want to know the cause. I don't want to alleviate the symptoms. I want to know what's causing it so I can heal it. And you didn't know. And for me, that was a turning point for me to start to look into other areas that I would have never looked in before if I wasn't suffering. And it just kind of escalated from there. So I completely agree what you're saying about when it comes to it, working with emotions. thinking, well, it sounds a bit hairy-fairy, and will it really work? And just tapping on my face and humming and doing these weird things, is it going to really help me? But you know, the reality is that it does work. And for me, I was willing to try it because I wanted to make sure that I was looking into anything that could help, and it did help. And it took time, and but through my experience of working on myself and working with others, it's really opened my eyes to how powerful this is. So I was going to ask you, Karl, for those who are watching and they're not sure if they're, you know, suffering with trauma, or they're not really sure what trauma is, in your through your explanation, what would you say trauma is, and how is it created?
Okay. Well, first of all, if somebody wants to know if they're suffering from trauma, yes, you are. Everybody on this planet is suffering from trauma. There's different types of trauma. You know, there's we call the two types in our world. We call it big T traumas. Big T traumas like car crashes, or you might be mugged, or sexual abuse, or been in an earthquake. Yeah. You know, quite a lot of us has been through some big T traumas, but then we've got small T traumas. Now, small T traumas are not really understood by the general public as well. These tend to, you know, go back to childhood, go back to early days, and it can just be a teacher saying, "You stupid child, get out of this classroom." It could be a parent saying, "Yeah, I'm busy, go away, I've not got time for you right now." But that for a child takes on the same quality as a trauma. All you need is two things: to feel powerless in a situation, and to have that situation threaten your existence, your life, you know. And it's all perceptual. For a child, as I said, you know, just being told to go away. You talked about your experience with chronic fatigue. Yeah, I've done a lot of work in this area, especially with a lot of women who suffer from fibromyalgia, which we call ME in the UK. And often we find there's beliefs that the world's a dangerous place. And an example of how easy this can happen to create these beliefs, there was one, she was quite young actually at the time, she was maybe in the mid-20s, several years ago, and she was running the world's a dangerous place. And we went back to a memory where she's a little girl, she's 4 years old. And she goes into the kitchen and says, "Mummy, where's Daddy?" He says, "Oh, he's out in his man shed, in his man cave, playing in there." So the little girl went skipping down to his shed to see what he was doing. And all these flashing lights are happening out from the shed. All these flashes are coming, and she's so excited. So she goes in, she opens the door, and Dad turns around and shouts at her and says, "Get out, it's dangerous." Now, he was just he was welding, but because his behavior that day was so uncharacteristic for his normal behavior, that was just like, so in that moment, you know, she's feeling powerless. There's nothing she can do about the situation. She's saying, "Daddy's saying it's dangerous." That's a trauma. At that moment, and the way, you know, we've understood trauma from experts like Bruce Lipton and Dr. Robert Scare and Peter Levine and other experts, is that, you know, we actually, at that point, we split off these parts of ourselves. In Matrix, we call them echoes. Literally, we hold these memories there in our fields. Now, that event, whilst to the conscious mind is over and done with, to the subconscious mind is still happening. The conscious mind just processes. Conscious mind is just about being able to think and analyze and make decisions. But the subconscious mind is more like it records everything that happens in your life, and especially with trauma. Okay, so in that moment when that little girl is shouted at, every thought she has, every feeling, every emotion, what's going on in the nervous system, throughout her meridian system, this flow of energy, everything is recorded. Conscious mind, 40 bits of information a second, subconscious, 40 million bits. So everything that happened is recorded and stuck there in a subconscious as a current ongoing event. And what always happens with trauma is you make a belief, you make a decision. So in that moment, you feel, the world can be, dangerous at any point. Once that's there, you then have further experiences through your life. So that goes very hardwired in subconscious. You've got to be careful because at any point the world could be dangerous. So from that point, we do several things. We'll attract situations We'll look for proof of it. So yeah, at that point, you go into a slight state of hypervigilance. You've all, everybody's heard of fight and flight. So you could be in another situation similar to that, and it could just be, a similar color being there, or any trigger being there, that suddenly the subconscious says, okay, that energy comes back in. You feel it again. I see the meridians as the flows of energy going to the various organs. And what you actually feel in that moment when there's a potential threat, similar to that threat before, is that all that energy flows back, telling your heart what to do, what your kidneys to do, your stomach to do, and you re-experience exactly what you felt that day. And the subconscious saying, this is dangerous, this is potentially dangerous right now, be on alert, start pumping that adrenaline around, start being hypervigilant, look around your surroundings, where's that danger coming from? So that's where the child's at. So it could have been just an innocuous event, but then that goes into the subconscious, another event. And then the next day and the next week, and throughout your life, you attract these situations, you create them, and you look for proof of that belief. Once you think the world's dangerous, you'll see it everywhere. You'll see it on the news. You'll see it in newspapers. You'll hear people talking. You'll look for, yes, it is dangerous. So I call this like the globalization subconscious. So now that you've got all these pictures there, confirming and reaffirming that the world's a dangerous place. Okay? So what it creates is more and more stress. Every day you feel some degree of stress in your life. Your adrenals are always kicking a bit too much energy. Your thyroid, your adrenals, is about that energy to do what you need to do. The thyroid is there to metabolize, to give you that energy. So you're running this on a constant level. So and as you start to globalize in this situation, it's like you don't sleep different. You don't sleep deeply.
Yeah.
You don't sleep deeply because the world's dangerous. So you've got to sleep literally with one eye open.
You're kind of hypervigilant. Hypervigilant all the time.
Absolutely. Hypervigilant. You probably went through this to some degree. I don't know, with you exactly what you went through, but I'm saying, there was a lot of stress in your life. So every day, people live in that constant state of stress, where you've got all the thyroid, the adrenals. You're constantly in a protect mode, which also means you're not healing very well. That the body's digital; it's in fight or flight, heal and grow. So you're not healing very well. So is it any surprise that down the line somewhere, the body then takes you out to society? With ME, the fibromyalgia, the muscle aches, and the tiredness. It's literally taking you out of society so that you cannot experience that trauma anymore. It's a solution, if anything, of the body.
Yeah, it's fascinating.
So it all makes complete sense. That the body's always doing something, and different diseases and different pains is always a result of how you are experiencing your world and how you're reacting to your world. And that's the great thing. That's why we love Bruce Lipton. He shows you on a biological level, an epigenetic scientist that explains exactly what's causing the problem. When we go to our doctors, how often do they say it's stress related? Also, he said, well, what's causing this? What's causing this cancer? What's causing this diabetes? We don't know. Just about all the diseases in Merck's manual, the doctor's handbook, when it comes to, they'll tell you what's happening in the body, what's gone wrong in the body, but when it comes to why it's gone wrong, vast majority of diseases, they don't know. They're looking in the wrong place. They're looking for, they're looking at. Modern medicine is based on Newtonian science of reductionism down to, they look at what's happening within the stomach, what's happening within the brain. If you've got a throat problem, just that part of your body, they don't look at the whole system. So, they don't think about what goes into the system, as in food and such. That doesn't seem to matter at all. The thoughts that we have, the family, the dynamics of the family, our environment that we're living in, that doesn't matter, of course. All it matters is something's gone wrong with the body. So let's give it some chemicals to change its functionality, or let's cut that bit out because obviously you don't need it. God give you that part, and nature throughout the years, everybody's developed into these sophisticated systems, but for some reason half of it we don't need. We'll just cut it out and throw it away because it's got a bit faulty. Instead, we look at either masking the symptoms or removing the problem bits. But not what causes it, and it becomes so bloody obvious what's causing our problems. And this is, we're talking about illness and disease, but whether it's relationship problems or money problems or whatever it is, it's what happened back then. What are the decisions you make that are controlling your life?
I think it absolutely blows my mind how unaware we are as a race, as a globally, as to how our emotions can really affect our health. We're so overlooked. And for me, venturing on this path and looking at EFT, and I thought, well, emotions, can that really give you a bad back? I mean, it didn't sound logical, like you said, that like my conscious logic mind was saying, well, no, it seems a bit daft, but you know, trying it out. And I remember doing a workshop in Copenhagen actually, and there was somebody sat in the audience who was English, who was very skeptical, and he'd had a bad shoulder for like 6 months, and he couldn't lift his arm any higher than this. And I was talking about EFT, and we'd already spoken about how it can affect you in different ways, and we was working on physical pain. And I asked if anybody would like to be a volunteer to come to the front, and I'd tap on them. So he put his hand half up to volunteer. He came out, and we worked and we spoke about the feeling and when it started and what was going on in his life at the time. And he was working in a very stressful environment. And as you know, stress comes down on the shoulders from above. We try and carry it, but we can't.
And responsibility as well, of course.
Exactly. Yeah, responsibility. Yeah. So we started to tap on that. We started to tap on what was going on in his life at the time that he felt that the shoulder started to become painful. So within 10 or 15 minutes of tapping, doing a few rounds, I asked him to lift his arm up, and he lifted it all the way over his head for the first time in 6 months. And I won't forget the look on his face, because he looked so shocked. His jaw literally dropped, and he looked straight at his girlfriend. And obviously, I had a lot of people asking me if I'd do private sessions with them after that, which was great. But it amazes me. I mean, it amazed me then, and I'd already seen how effective it was before, but it still amazes me now how the body can manifest illness in certain areas that represent a certain issue. And like you mentioned, lower back, and I'm seeing now more and more that when people have a lower back problem, that represents like a lack of support. That's, you know, if you don't have the support that's holding you back, because it's one of the weakest parts of our body, and you got this stress coming from above, the one place it will give is, you know, the lower back. And
sure.
Little things like this. So yeah, without a shadow of a doubt, I can see how trauma really debilitates us. And as you touched on before, the subconscious mind will kind of make us relive the trauma over and over again. And but in the irony of it is that our subconscious is designed to protect us and keep us alive, but essentially it's the cause of our suffering.
It's not logical. It's not making logical decisions. You said that the conscious brain can do that. The subconscious, it just records things as a matter of fact. And there's a vast amount of information there, you know, and it's also estimated that to like 99% of everything we do in a day is run through our subconscious. You know, it's like you wake up in the morning, you know how to dress yourself and clean your teeth and tie your shoelaces. If you didn't have your subconscious to record all that information, imagine what life would be like. You have to relearn everything every day. You would still be in caves. We would not got further than caves, you know. But also it records the beliefs as well, like the world's dangerous, I'm not good enough, people reject me. It records that as a matter of fact. Yeah. So it's, you know, there's good, bad, and indifferent stuff in the subconscious, but it's running the show. Yeah. And yes, you can make conscious decisions and override it, but pretty much you will always revert back to the programs that are in there, because that's your basic programming. And until you change what's in the programs, you know, you'll keep doing the same stuff over and over. And it gets worse. You know, people notice as you get older, it doesn't get better, it gets worse. So does that, because you keep attracting and creating, of course. You get more and more stuff in there. I'll give you an example with a phobia. You might have no problems with flying whatsoever. Then one day you could be 32 years old, you get on a flight and some bad turbulence. The next day you do not have a massive phobia. Well, the next time you get on a flight, you're a bit more hypervigilant. You're a bit more in that, let's check around. And then you might have a bad meal. And you feel a bit sick, and that goes in and subconscious. Okay, when you're on, when you're on the flight, that bad feeling from the meal, it just thinks you feel bad. So okay, that's in there, and then there might be some more turbulence, another flight, and when you're in you go into fight and flight, everything looks threatening. I'm sure you've noticed that, and our listeners, that when you're in that, everything, you feel isolated and everything changes nature. It's like, yeah, because you're in a state of, you've got to look, where is that danger? We've got to spot that danger. Where is that tiger that's out to kill us? We've got to identify the source of the danger. So you look at the stewardess, and she might be thinking, oh, no, a bit pissed off because she's got to pack a trolley away and it's messed up their schedule. And she's thinking, oh, this is just annoying. But you look at her and you will misread the signals. You'll look at her face and think, oh, look, she's terrified. We're going down and she knows it. So that goes in the subconscious. So, it could be, you can have a woman pilot. I think women pilots are great, not a personal thing, but a woman pilot might come on. You might have the wheels going down. You're thinking, oh, they struggle. Did they go down fully? It goes in and it goes in and it goes in, and you end up with a massive phobia 6 months, a year, or 2 years down the line that just grows and grows and grows. It's the same with so many issues. Anxiety will start off with a very specific trigger in your life, but as you keep doing it and globalizing, then you get to a point where you can become agoraphobic, where you can't even go out of the house every day without being in terror, because what was very specific has become very global. And back to the doctors, don't get me wrong. I like to point out, with medicine, there are some amazing evolutions within medicine. But and with acute medicine care, if you have an accident, you have a car crash, you want a doctor, life-saving. You might need a new organ. Of course, some medications, even like diabetes. If you don't have your medications, you will die. But it should be that the medications are short-term solution while you look at changing your diet, your lifestyle, resolving your traumas, so the body can return to health and you come off your medication. That's the problem. For long-term, medical conditions, and certainly a lot of today's autoimmune illnesses, like we've mentioned, there's no solution within the medical model, and people are getting frustrated and looking elsewhere. There's that. So but how often does the doctor say to so many people, they probably said to you when you were with the problems with chronic fatigue, it's stress related. Richard, you've got a problem because it's stress related. But basically, what is stress? Isn't it simply how you react to your surroundings? It's like this magical word, stress, as if, oh yeah, I better be careful because I might walk into some stress, or stress might fall off a building and hit me on the head. Stress is you reacting to your environment and going into some degree of fight and flight, and all these stress chemicals running around the body, which were meant to be a short-term solution to the tiger, where we fight it or we run away from it, and then we return back to normal. Today's society, we're constantly kicking these chemicals around the system, and when we do that for a long time, we can't get out of the stress. The body will make adaptations. It will change to deal with the perception, and then we've got a disease. And it's so bloody obvious. You look at epigenetics or just common sense. It's so bloody obvious. We get sick, we have problems because of the way we react to our worlds, based on our previous experience and what we learned, what we picked up from our parents and our schooling and our childhood. We'll keep running as long as it's there, because we've got the pictures there that's telling us that we're not good enough, telling us that we're stupid, telling us, and that's the language of our subconscious, is these pictures to which we give meaning, and we just run every day of our lives.
I think it's amazing as well when you work with people and you see the connection, you see the path back from what they've come to you to get help with, and through some questioning and memories naturally coming up to the surface and working through them, there's these little gems that pop up that they've completely forgotten about, these traumatic events, and you work through them, and then you go back to where the trauma originates from, and to be able to show them this kind of connection from when they were, say, 4 years old to they're 34 years old, and they've been living a life based on what they experienced when they were 4, and the world that was created through the beliefs as a result of the trauma when they were 4, and to see that connection all the way through to the present day, it's just so profound. And I love that part of this work, and even for myself to go through that, and it's fascinating how we do kind of create a world. We all have our own individual reality that we're living based on the beliefs that we carry, the trauma that took place when we were children, and we're constantly reacting. It's like the subconscious is always looking to confirm the belief and to confirm that the world is a dangerous place and these things, so that we're constantly re-traumatizing ourselves. And like you said about stress, you know, Bruce Lipton says it's 98% of disease is created through stress. And to look at that and to think, well, if we can have more education about stress and what's causing it, and look more into emotions, because I do think there's a severe lack of education when it comes to emotions, and to really understand them, and to see children who are more naturally adapt to kick and scream and express how they feel. But then when we grow older, like you said about especially being a man, to share and to express how we feel, to be, you know, upset, to cry, there's so much resistance because of the fear of judgment, rejection, all those kind of things. So the only thing we can do is to suppress the emotions that want to pass through. Energy, emotion that wants to pass, and we don't allow it to do what it wants to do. So, you know, obviously it's going to have an effect. It's going to have some kind of negative impact on our health. So yeah, I think without a doubt, this needs to be looked at deeper, and this is why I love this work. So the question I was going to ask you is, how do we, for those who are watching this video now and they don't have somebody to guide them, how can they start to work through their own trauma naturally? Maybe even without using EFT or anything like this. Is it, in your eyes and your experience, the trauma, you know, it keeps presenting itself, and rather than reacting through it, how can we naturally start to work through it?
That's the difficulty, you know. It is, and just being aware of your problems doesn't change the problems. You can go and talk about it with a counsellor and a therapist, and you can understand exactly why you're behaving like you are, and you know why you react like you do to life situations. But it doesn't change it, because you know that's just being consciously aware. You have to change it subconsciously. So you know we talk about EFT and Matrix as solutions. There are, of course, lots of other therapies that do help you to change your life. These are my favourites. I mean, you know, bottom line is, until you get to the subconscious, until you actually not only find out where they came from, but change those perceptions, release all that, you know, the information that you held in there at the time of these traumas, and you change that belief, you're going to keep doing it. You know, so there's ways you can manage it. Your meditation, of course, is going to help, and your breathing exercise is going to help, and a whole lot of things can help. Affirmations is going to, you know, to help to give you a little bit more positivity in your life. But even with affirmations, you know, Louise Hay herself, the queen of affirmations, has said now that it's very difficult to keep repeating positive things when you've got all this stuff on your subconscious saying that, no, I'm not good enough, I don't deserve that, you know, I'll never deserve it. And you can keep doing the positive affirmations forever, but you're trying to paste all up on a wall that says the complete opposite, and this wall is running the show. So, you know, it takes a lot of time and a lot of effort to kind of a repetition for that affirmation to go subconscious when it's going to overwrite something. It's much better to clear the wall, and that's what we do. Now, the great thing about EFT is, you know, you can have, to me, these 5 levels of EFT. Right. You can go on YouTube. Anybody can listen to this now, can go on YouTube and find out how to tap on themselves. They can find these points in 5 minutes, and in 15 minutes, they'll not, this is where I tap. It's not difficult, okay? They've got that down. That's the first level, just tapping. If you just tapped for 10 minutes every day, you're going to feel things are a little bit better. Some people, the tapping is very profound very quickly. You know, they have like the 1 minute wonder kind of stuff. Like, wow, I feel less anxious, less stressed. But that's the first level. The second level is, you know, a lot of people see like YouTube clips of the scripts. of tapping scripts where you can read a script that you're given. There might be scripts on weight loss, a script on money issues, or whatever it is, and you just read the script and you tap along. And Gary Craig, the creator of EFT, was never a big fan of the scripts. I'm not either. Reason for, with the scripts, the problem can be is that they're too global, or that people don't really tune in to the problem.
Yeah.
With EFT, you need to tune in, you need to feel it, and then the tap in, as you're re-experiencing these emotions from these past events, the tapping, it's like pressing a reset. If you think, all this information is flowing back into the body, flowing back into these organs, as you're experiencing that, connected to that memory, and you tap, it's almost like this incredibly sensitive electronic system, which is the body. It's like we're switching off that information. So we can look at that memory, that past memory in the future, and we think, you know what, when I look at it, it doesn't bother me now. Yes, but it is about getting specific. So the second level to me would be scripts. Then the third level is it's going to be learning the techniques. Coming on the course, I always highly recommend people, even if it's just an introduction course, to really understand it at a deeper level, so they get how it works exactly, and they can do, then they can do work on themselves, which you can get so far when you understand exactly how EFT works. You can tap on yourself, and the more you understand it, the better it'll become. But then the ultimate level is obviously going to be working with somebody else. With our world, EFT MRAs, which I train EFT and Matrix through, we have this massive culture about swapping sessions. We have private Facebook groups where, as practitioners, you've got people there outside of your friends and family, that because it's not it's easy to get your practice there or to fix everybody around you. We have this ethos where we swap sessions, and we have people, years down the line, they still have their regular partners that will keep working through things going on in their lives, where you can learn the skills and you can clear, and then of course you're actually paying for an EFT or Matrix practitioner. An expert practitioner. So those are the levels, from just tapping and just seeing what happens to doing a script along with a video or a written script, to actually coming learning it, to ultimately working with somebody that's highly skilled. That's where it's really at, because we don't know where our problems go back to. We don't get it. We don't understand it. It becomes, as you've mentioned already, I could have somebody in front of me within 5 minutes and say, I've got a relationship problem or a money problem or a health problem. And invariably I can, find them 2, 3, 4, 5 memories from childhood that they can see that it all connects back. This is why the problem's there. We can find it really quickly. Then it's a matter of working through all these memories. And it doesn't always go back to before the age of 6.
Yeah, it does. And I think even that in itself is very powerful, when you are able to find the source of how this is happening, and the realizations that people have in that moment where you say, this is where it's coming from, and it's like, holy shit, I had no idea. I've seen God knows how many psychiatrists about this problem. They've all dug in this same cupboard and brought up the same memories, but I had no idea that this is the connection. And you work through it. You work through the emotion. And it's funny because there's other techniques like talk therapy, and as maybe as therapeutic as this can be to talk about the emotions, I kind of see it as it's only the gateway into EFT, because it's like you're bringing the emotions up, but what now? What are you going to do with it? And I kind of think of an analogy where like talk therapy is like going into a dusty room and unsettling all the dust, so it's all up in the air. But then, you leave it and the dust slowly settles back down, as opposed to EFT, which is like you're going into the room, you're unsettling the dust, and then you're opening 2 windows to allow all the dust to kind of fly through.
Yeah, lovely analogy. Yeah, great.
Yeah.
Like
so
that.
I do think that it is important to have a good guide, because I know that when I was trying it out myself, I did feel some slight changes, but nothing profound, because I think it is difficult to work through some deep stuff on yourself, because to kind of ask yourself the questions and to try and guide yourself, sometimes you can quite conveniently avoid you know, certain areas, because the subconscious doesn't want to go back to this trauma. So by having somebody who you feel comfortable with and safe with, who holds the space well for you to you know, share this emotion and be vulnerable and go there, I think it is very powerful.
Yeah.
I was actually listening last night, just to quickly finish this. What I was going to say, there's a woman who wrote a book called Radical Acceptance, and she's a Buddhist monk. And the reason I asked you if there's any way that people can use like something that can help them let go of this, was for those who maybe they're not in a position to seek out a practitioner, but I think it, you know, if there is somebody who wants to really go deep into the traumas, it's important. And the woman I was listening to was talking about self-inquiry, and she was saying that through her Buddhist practice, they were always taught to use self-inquiry to name what they were feeling. So if they were sat and they were still, or anger, sadness, frustration, anxiety, and that's where she left it. And I thought, how interesting is that? That has been a Buddhist practice for thousands of years, and what EFT uses is you encouraging people to name and be very specific about what they're feeling, just like the self-inquiry, but then you're tapping on the energy meridians to help the body's energy system flow properly, and then to start to transmute or push out these emotions.
Absolutely. It's not about emotions. Emotions are not the problem. We'll never get rid of emotions. You know, as you already use that connection that energy should be energy emotion. The problem is when it's almost like when we're not allowed to express emotion, and it gets stuck in our systems. That we've got a picture there that's always angry, and we're in anger all the time. That's when it's a problem. You know, when I first about emotional freedom technique, it's like, oh, you'd be free of emotions. No, that'll never happen in a billion years. You know, it's like we're not going to become like Spock. You know, and in fact, quite with me, the opposite happened. Over the years, I've got more emotional. Because back then I was so shut off, so shut down, so dissociated from my world. I didn't feel anything. But also I didn't feel anything good. I couldn't feel joy or happiness or love. It's just shut down. But now, I've got such a. If that before that was my range of emotions are that big now, because I can feel things. I watch things on telly, and I watch X Factor and cry famously in my family. I'm terrible. I watch films, and it's like, you soft bugger, and I'm like, but it's actually nice to feel. Because that's the problem. I was so shut down. My body was experiencing all these physical symptoms of basically just not allowing energy to flow in my body and emotion to flow. And it is important, absolutely. Ultimately, what the work is all about is getting to a point of letting go. That these pictures that are still there as current ongoing events, what you find is once you have tapped on a memory, it goes into the past. It's hard to tune into now. It's like it's over. Like it happened to me back then, not me still happening. So you let it go, and it's all about letting go, isn't it? And if the world could let go of all its traumas and all of its negative beliefs, especially if you look at the state of the world, we're not going to go down that road. But if you see the state of the world, and why is it? It's because everybody's holding on to all these past hurts and traumas and beliefs. If we can let them go. And then, which ultimately leaves us to forgiveness, and then, then anything can happen. And it's about moving forward instead of just living in the past.
Yeah, and it's beautiful what you touched on there as well, Karl, with emotions, and I couldn't agree more. And to be able to feel this rainbow of emotions, and not to judge, certain aspects of it, and say, I just want to feel happiness, and everything else can be suppressed. It's like training people to say, well, all emotions are one, and to be comfortable receiving all of them means that you're going to really feel again. And it's like quickly going back to certain drugs that will suppress symptoms. We're kind of also suppressing our emotions so we don't feel, but then we're just numb to society. And and I also see that we've become like a very reactive species. We're very reactive, and we're not really seeing what's being triggered. And it's kind of like life will always present situations that will never change. Just like you said, we'll always feel emotions that won't ever change either. But I think what needs to happen is like our relationship with situations and our emotions needs to change in order for us to really be able to start healing. And instead of reacting against the situation, to have more awareness to say, okay, yeah, this situation isn't the best, but why do I feel angry? And I think that's what's so overlooked is, I'm going to blame the situations and constantly deflect any responsibility to feel. But I think with this type of work, it is hugely important to start to say, okay, well, why do I feel this way?
Yeah, absolutely. It's never about what's happening out there; it's how you react to it, isn't it?
Yeah.
And we all react to different situations. It's you sit every day. What you might react to, your wife doesn't, and what she reacts to, you don't, and it's all based on how we react to what's happening there. And Sasha, who did the first book with me, she had a great little saying that if something happens to you once, it's their stuff.
Yeah.
If it keeps happening to you, it's your stuff. And you've got to start looking at, why does this keep happening in your world? Why do you keep reacting to that same way over and over again? It really is time to go inside. And that's what I like about this work as well. You start to get that self-responsibility that you are, as you alluded to, you're the creator of our worlds. We do create our worlds. And when you get to see these incredible memories with these beliefs that stream back, that how you have created everything in your world, your friendships, your partnerships, the work you do, your health, everything based on your beliefs. The downside is that, unfortunately, most of our beliefs are negative. Partly because of the way we're brought up. And I thought, there's people like, some of the big guys like Zig Ziglar, some of the old masters of self-help that talk about, 87.4% of everything you hear as a child is negative. So you kind of imprinted all this negative stuff, but also from a trauma point of view, which is really important to learn is, if I would say to you as a little boy, you're a clever little boy, Richard, you would feel good in that moment, wouldn't you?
Yeah.
But a few minutes later or an hour later, you'd forgot it. If I say, Richard, you stupid child, that's trauma. And it goes in hardwired. And you never forget that. That's there for the rest of your life. And I think that is why so much of the world we create is negative. And say it's about that re-education to learning how to let go of all of the negative beliefs and trauma. And with Matrix, they're putting something positive back in there instead. Having pictures and beliefs that are supportive and that say that you can do this, you are good enough, you do belong, and the world is a safe little place, and it can be.
Yeah, absolutely, and I think that's such a relief for everybody, and it was for me to know that we can reframe our subconscious, even though it's filled with potentially a lot of negativity. We can reframe it and have it to be more congruent with who we really are. And I remember I watched a TED Talk recently where it was a woman talking about hypnotherapy, and she was saying how past trauma, past memories, and she even touched on this as well with what you're saying about echoes and being trapped in a point in time as a child, essentially, that when we are traumatized as a child, unless it's resolved, unless the subconscious realizes that the threat has disappeared, essentially we are constantly in a loop of reliving that traumatic situation over and over and over again. And then the sympathetic nervous system is switched on and stuck on. We're in a consistent state of stress. Then life will just keep bringing situations to kind of point to the beliefs and the trauma. And it's just like this perpetuation, this cycle of constant health issues and situations that we don't really want. So I know you've done a hell of a lot of work on beliefs, and with your new book, transform your beliefs, transform your life. What would you say is the core kind of message in that book when it comes to beliefs? Because obviously we're talking about beliefs a lot, and this call was essentially about how you can heal subconscious childhood traumas, and that is important. But I think even underneath that is the beliefs, and I keep coming back to this myself, is that beliefs, just we really need to see the programs that we're running. So what would you say is the biggest kind of message in your book with the belief side of trauma?
Just simply that, you know, within a traumatic event, the trauma is important, especially with the big T traumas, with the car crash and such, that you can end up with things like PTSD and you know, trauma related directly from big traumas. But say, from experience, it seems to be that it's the small T traumas that actually do more damage, because in them moments where you make that belief decision, you know, with the big T traumas, it's more about the trauma itself. We can tap and we can release that. The memory doesn't bother us. We let go, and you know, that's pretty simple. But if you've been programmed with these beliefs that you decided, I'm not good enough, I'm stupid, I'm unlovable, and you keep running it and reinforcing it, it affects you every single day of your life. You can run into a situation or two where you feel like you don't fit in, you don't belong, you're unlovable, and you keep doing it, and it affects your relationships. It affects your, you know, everything, marriage, children, you know, being a parent, work situations, health, everything's affected. So you're from originally with EFT was more about trauma resolution. So going into Matrix, it's become more and more about, you know, the belief that you make at the time of the trauma. We have to make a belief. You know, in that moment, it's life and death. It's like a gazelle on the desert, on the prairie, you with the tiger, with the lion, that you've got one chance to learn that this is life and death situation. It's got to go in hardwired, deep, and you never forget it. But of course, so much of our beliefs that we was inputted with a child are completely obsolete now. But it doesn't matter. It's not appropriate to our day-to-day living. You'll keep running the same thing. But I mean, so many, you know, absolutely amazing case studies, situations where you can see absolutely everything in your life. Once you understand the belief, you can see, I can see everything in my life. I've just created that over and over again. It's affected everything in my life. So yeah, it all comes down to, you need to find out the beliefs, and you need to then, with Matrix, because this is, you know, where Matrix comes into its own, going back to these memories and adjusting that perception, changing that belief system back then. So all these pictures you have, instead of, you know, dad saying, you stupid child, you should be able to do your homework, you've got dad who's now supporting you, saying, oh, you're doing really well, you're a clever little boy. And that's what happens when you take EFT into the Matrix and you tap on the child, you tap on dad. It allows this completion, this natural completion. Instead of being frozen that moment and the negative decision made, you allow for natural completion where it's now a positive memory, and that becomes your reference to how you see the world. Now, you see, you might have done it, you know, 1,000 times, 8,372 times. You've got a memory there that says you're unlovable. But what we find, what's fascinating with Matrix, is that our echoes, these younger selves, know where to go, and they'll take you from one moment to another. They'll take you from, you know, what happened last week, to 18 years old, to 7 years old, to 3 years old, to in the womb, to past life, to back to you was 9 years old, and they seem to know where to take you to the key memories. And you change those key memories and reinforce it with this different picture and this different belief, you know, your world begins to change very quickly. And also, you know, instead of thinking I'm unlovable and just creating and attracting and proving that all the time, suddenly you think, you know what, I quite like myself now. And then strangely what happens, other people seem to like you more. So you get a reinforcement of a positive belief. So you've got the pictures that are saying something different. You've got a life experience saying something different. And ultimately, as you keep working, everything begins to change. You know, but it's a process, you know, with these deep-seated beliefs, you know, like with the first session I had 13 years or so ago, 14 years, you know, it was 2 rounds of phobia had gone. Now, you know, going into deep as we go, you might be looking for a year or 2 years to completely eradicate a belief that I'm unlovable. But at the end of that 2 years, you will have an amazing group of friends. Your friendship circles would have changed. Possibly even your partners would have changed, or they would have changed themselves to accommodate how you are now. But everything will change, you know, and that in itself can be uncomfortable. You know, and you need time to adjust to each new step of the way. But, you know, that's what I'm seeing with people around me, people that have done this work for a long time. I mean, some amazing changes. I mean, I mentioned Sasha. Well, Sasha went from when I first met her She had to miss the first course. She was that ill, didn't have the energy. We had to find her. She couldn't stay in the hotel. She had to find a B&B place with a fridge because her food choices were so limited. She had to bring her own food. At the time, her partner would have to carry her down to the beach.
Wow.
No, what are we? 8 years on, Sasha has lived all over the world. She's lived in Israel. She's lived in San Francisco. She's trained. A new development with Matrix is about finding the actual life purpose. Sasha ultimately wasn't meant to be a practitioner. She wasn't ultimately meant to be a trainer. That was a period she went through, but she found her place in the world, her goal in the world, based on her childhood about never being safe to be listened to express herself. She now lives in New York, has a beautiful relationship, madly in love, has offices in Manhattan, and she's doing incredibly well helping other people get the word out about sharing their message. That's how her. Some see so often how her childhood issue has now become her life purpose and what she gives as a gift to other people. That's the full exploration of where we can go with Matrix, and it's beautiful to see. The steps along the way. Yeah,
it's amazing. That stories like that, they're great to hear, and like how our pain can become the catalyst for us to be the person that we always have been, beyond obviously all the programs. And it's great that can happen, and it can happen to everybody. And what I really, really love with this type of work, especially Matrix, is that to see that reality shift, and to really start to take responsibility for ourselves, and instead of keeping on trying to rearrange life, try to tailor life to make us feel better, which most people do, and I was doing for so many years, to try and fix and get all the plates spinning at once and just say nobody move, everything's spinning now, nobody breathe, but then one plate will fall off, a situation will happen, it'll trigger the same emotion. To be able to take responsibility and to work on the belief systems and to change them, like you said, to bring more positive beliefs in, and then to see that shift from the outside, like life then will complement the shift that you've made. And it's kind of like life's always waiting for us to change, so it can change.
Yeah. We do literally create our lives, and we can do it badly or we can do it in a good way. And EFT and Matrix is two great tools to change it from bad to creating that potential life that you always wanted and dreamt about. And
great. Well, great place to finish, Karl. And I just want to say to anybody that's watching, I'll leave links in the description box of this video, and links to learn more about EFT, to learn more about Karl and his work and Matrix Reimprinting. I'll pop up links to the books that he's written, and please leave any comments that you have about this video. And I'd like to just thank you, Karl. It's been a pleasure talking to you, and I love this topic.
If anybody's interested, we do have practitioners and trainers all over the world. There's nowhere in the world that our trainers wouldn't go. So just go to the Matrix website, the link you're going to put up there, and just see what's there. Thank you so much. Great to speak to you again, and great congratulations on the way your world has changed, and finding a wonderful woman. I take it she's Swedish. You in Sweden?
I'm in Sweden. She's Polish.
Oh, it's okay. So you met a Polish woman in
Copenhagen,
Thailand, and now you live in Sweden. Brilliant.
Yeah, I like to keep things interesting. Yeah.
And you got a child.
Child on the way.
Brilliant. Well, congratulations. Great to talk to you, Richard.
Thank you, Karl. Yeah, take care. Bye-bye.
Bye.